Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with us this evening is a phenomenal woman that I recently had the pleasure of connecting with across social media lines. She is a language and communication strategist. She is a musical and vocal talent. She's a mom, but most importantly, she is a woman of God, and she's taking out time out of her very busy schedule to hang out with us this evening to share a little bit of her journey, a little bit of her story with the hopes of inspiring and encouraging and uplifting others, especially as it deals with the challenges and storms of life that we all go through in some fashion or form, hoping to drop some nuggets, some wisdom, if you will, on us so that we can too have hope that we can overcome those same challenges that we all respectively deal with. So it is my privilege and honor, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you our special guest this evening, Miss Takenya Freeney. Takenya, thank you so much for being on the show.
I love that intro. Okay, first of all, I'm loving that
First of
intro.
all,
Keep it coming.
that's good. That's good. So, Takenya, before we jump into our segments this evening, I do want to give you an opportunity to give a little brief introduction about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Kind of give our audience a taste of who is Takenya Freeney.
I would say the shortest answer is I help leaders get clear about their voice so that the room knows how to move after they speak. And why I'm able to do that is because of who I've been in the past. So I've been an educator for 20 plus years. I've been a soldier for 10 years in the military, and just who I am and how I am. Being a musician as well. I'm a classically trained vocalist and pianist, who graduated from Florida A&M University. We rattlers are a different breed. It's not a cult, it's just a culture.
All right. I love that. Love that. And clearly, I mean, for my listeners, I mean, if you haven't had a chance to actually check out our guest before, seeing any of the works that she's doing, she's a woman of wearing many hats. But again, most importantly, just impacting people and just really tapping into their gifts, tapping in their purpose in life. And she's doing that while she's walking in her own purpose, doing as God has instructed her to do, what He specifically created and designed her for. So we welcome that. We're excited about that. And again, I'm thankful that you are part of our broadcast this evening. And I know you're going to be a blessing to us. So I'm going to sit myself to the side here and we're going to jump right on into this thing so we can learn more about you. So, Takenya, as I'm always a firm believer, if you will, when we start talking about our journeys, when we start talking about that story and how it all goes, I really think it's important that we take a moment to reflect back on the beginnings of where it all starts because again, a lot of times, as an adult, it may all seem to make sense as to what's going on or what have you. But when we're, in the earlier stages of that journey, especially back as far as childhood, we don't know, why we've met the people that we've met. We don't know why we're going through the experiences that we're going through, good or bad. It's just something that's happening right now and it's not all clicking. But again, as life has it, you get that experience and you get some years on your belt, then start to connect the dots. You start to see the light bulbs click and come on, and it starts to become clear. Okay, this is why I had to go through what I went through. This is why I had to experience what I had to experience, just for the moment that I'm in right now, walking in the purpose that God specifically created me, specifically designed for me to be in, so that I can be a blessing to others. So, with that said, Kenya, if you would take us back to the beginnings for you. Tell us, what was it like for you growing up? Any fond memories that you have about growing up? Please share that, as well as if there's any challenges that come to mind, you can do that as well. Just kind of give us a backdrop of where your story begins.
So, I'm a 70s baby. I don't know if that means anything to anybody. But there's lots of wisdom, I want to say. There's wisdom across my hair that I definitely are. Yes, and I choose not to cover that up intentionally. I just love it. I love how it tells my story without me having to say a word. But growing up for me, I was an only kid for a while. Like I was like, yes, just me and mama and daddy, and all of a sudden my little sister walks up on the scene. Like, like who is
Mm-mm-mm.
this? Who is this? I had 6 years all to myself. And I would say that I didn't want to share. That sounds terrible. I didn't want to share. I didn't want to share, but I had the kind of parents who their house was the party house. That
Hmm.
was the house where, as kids, being a kid of the 70s, you could not be in the room where the adults were. The kids had to be somewhere else. And so my parents are throwing these hype parties. My daddy has these speakers that he built. My mama's got on her fly clothes and she's rocking that big red afro. My mama is a 6 foot tall redhead with freckles. She is in her element,
Mm.
right? And I can hear all that music thumping and bumping on the other side of the wall, but I can't be in the room. Like, yo, like what is that? I can hear the good time that they're having on the other side of the door, but I can't be there. I can literally feel the vibrations and I can hear their reactions. Through that was like where I acquired by osmosis a love for music. All these different things my parents were playing, I was absorbing.
Mm.
Whether intentionally or unintentionally, I was absorbing the song. So, you know, I may have been a child singing Super Freak. You know, they don't know what it means. I'm a child. I'm a
Right.
child. But I saw that music had command over people.
Hmm.
Music had command over people. Also, as a kid, I went to school with my cousins. I have a large family in the Dallas metro area, and that is a large extended family. So my cousins and I, we all wanted to be in the same class at the same time, and piano was the class we agreed on. So we would sit two to a bench, and my teacher was this little white hippie lady who came to teach us little kids in Oak Cliff. She came to the hood to teach us music. And fourth grade, I took lessons. Fifth grade, I took piano lessons. Sixth grade, I took lessons. I missed a piano recital in the fifth grade because one of my cousins gave me chicken pox. I'm still a little
Mm.
salty about that. Still a little salty about that. But that avenue of music became available to me. And what I noticed as a kid is I didn't have to say much as long as I was singing and playing. People would stop and listen to what I was doing because I was singing and playing. Later on, what that translated into, at the age of 15, I was voluntold that I was the church's piano player. Now, again, family history comes back in here again. My mother's father is a preacher. So the kids' choir was nothing but me and my cousins when we went to his church. And my father became a preacher at his brother's church. So I don't know what the reach is of this pod, but if you're in sunny South Dallas, if you're in South Dallas, there's this notorious street called Dixon. There is only one church on Dixon Avenue, and that's Dixon Circle Missionary Baptist Church. And at 15, I was in charge of all the music, all of it, all of it. So that meant teaching my aunt or my uncle or my cousin or my elders. Ooh, sister Ruby, that's not the right note at 15. So I learned to hurry up and get it. My grandmother would be on that second pew with her hat on in her designated seat. And I would have to hurry up and catch the song. So I would hear her say, "Ooh, thank you, Lord." Or I would hear her say, "Ooh, help a Lord." Like I'm like, come on, grandma, do it. Like, you're 15. But that carved out my ear in a
Mm.
way that you're not gonna get in the classical world. You're not gonna get that there. So the music taught me that discipline, it taught me how to listen, and it taught me how to hold that room, taught me how to hold that room before I was called into leadership in other ways.
I love that. Love that. And again, I appreciate you sharing that because as you were, of course, as you started off talking about being a '70s kid, I am as well. So, and I remember those type of adult parties in the room, and my mom did similar things, people over playing cards, all that kind of stuff, the music going and everything, and of course, as a little kid, you're trying to sneak in, momentarily, but you're pretty much supposed to be up out of that space because that's grown folk. You don't get in grown folk conversation, grown folks parties. I've even had memories about how you think back to your parties as a kid. If you had a birthday party, it started out as a kid party, but by the time later on in the evening, it transitioned into an adult party. That's just some of the things that are very memorable about that 70s upbringing lifestyle. And then, I'm sure it had to be cool to be able to go to school, like you said, with, your extended family being in the same, classes and things like that. That's always a great thing. But, I think what really stands out to me is that, like you said, like as a family, you guys you were trying to figure out, okay, what class can we all migrate to? And it ends up being music, and in that opportunity, just something that somebody else would just kind of look at it as just another class to take or whatever. For
Mhm.
you, it was the birth of what you would become. Like you spoke about, even you not physically being in a room when your parents were throwing the parties and playing the music. It was like it was seeping through the walls. And then when you actually got an opportunity to be formally trained, yes, you were trained, more in a classical style in that way. But, this is where God steps in. And for those who are tuning in and maybe not even understand this, God can take a skill like that may seem formal, that may seem corporate, if you will, that, but he can anoint that skill set and transition it into something that honors him, that recognizes who he is, that puts him out in the atmosphere. And he did that transition through you. Like you said, you got pretty much thrown in at an early age. Like you said, running the whole music department. I'm the worship leader. I'm the head musician. I'm the choir director. I'm everybody. And having to teach people, like I said, primarily who weren't just your age, but primarily even older than you. So I can only imagine what that challenge must have been like, because as an adult, they might feel some kind of way, having a child correct them, telling them that I'm sorry, sister such and such, that's not your note. That is, your notice here, it's not there. I'm gonna need you to come back on over here. Anybody who's had choir experience, you know what that's like with that person in the choir who can swear they can sing, but they are nowhere close, nearby, or in the vicinity of the notes. But they're just out there. They're just out there doing their thing. So, for you to be given that type of responsibility at such an early age, not only is it speaks volumes of who you are, but again, I see it as setting up the platform for what you do today, helping people find their voice, helping
Mhm.
people as if you notice the title of our show, and then I kind of pulled that from some of the things that you talk about, getting people connected to their presence,
Mhm.
making themselves feel like, I'm just not physically in the room. You identify with me, you connect with me because I have something of value to contribute. It's not about, I'm not connected to you because I got on some fancy clothes, or I got a lot of titles after my name or anything like that. I'm connected because who I'm connected to is what makes me be connected to this present moment in time, and how I'm able to be, again, a blessing to other people. So that's why I like to have these conversations early on, because again, this is the platform. And just even in these few moments of you sharing, it's to me, it's easy to figure out why you're doing what you're doing right now, because the stage was already being set when you were in your early teens. I mean, it was already laid out for you right there. You're just thriving in it right now, and continuing to build upon it. And we got to celebrate that and love on that. So again, I appreciate you sharing that too with us. So to Kenya, as you obviously had an awesome upbringing, very musically talented, skilled, doing your thing, and of course, as you enter into adulthood, as with all of us, more and more experiences come, more and more encounters of people that we meet come our way. But, as I always say, if you live long enough, there's going to come a point in time where you're going to find yourself facing some challenges and storms of life, some of which are going to be at a level that when you find yourself up against it, you're going to be questioning, how am I going to get out of this? Even if you're somebody who's historically been good at navigating and making your way through and around, challenging moments, everybody has that one that's a little bit bigger than what they counted on. And they may feel helpless, they may feel hopeless, they may feel like there's no way out. It's just you and that challenge, and your money, your titles, your musical talents. None of that stuff is going to get you through it. It's just you and this problem, and you're thinking to yourself, where's my way out? So with that said, tell us about a time that's exactly how you felt, that the walls are closing in, you're feeling like you're stuck. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to run. It's just you and this challenge. Obviously, you're here today, so we can, trust that, God made a way for that to happen. But I'm sure early on, you might have felt like, and you might not have been feeling, God's present in that moment. You might not have been feeling like there was a way out. So What was that situation like for you? Kind of walk us through what that was like and what was ultimately the turning point when you began to see some light at the end of the tunnel and coming up out of it.
I'm like, which one? I'm just like, which one? And just referencing back, there are some people I wish I would say, hey, baby, play this tambourine instead of standing in front of this microphone. When I got to college, I went to college on a Life Gets Better full academic scholarship. I had a free ride,
Mm,
which was perfect because I didn't know we grew up poor until I got to college. I'm laughing at me and my family. I think we're a bunch of low key comedians, but you laugh so you don't cry. You laugh instead of crying. Oftentimes, I got to college and my major was a science major, and I got a big fat D in chemistry. And I'm calling my daddy. I'm on academic probation at this point, and I dig in, and I'm like, yes, I'm going to bring up my GPA, and I didn't meet the standard. That Life Gets Better scholarship was yanked because I didn't meet the standard. And I remember calling home, and my daddy was like, "Well, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Because we ain't got one thing down to send you. What you gonna do?" I said, "I'm gonna stay and finish." you know. And I changed my major to music. So it's like that music just kept coming back. I changed from a
mm-hmm,
science major to a music major. Things shot and took off. Little did I know that was laying the ground for what came later in life for me. I thought music was always going to be there for me. I thought music was always going to be my muse. I thought music was always going to be my refuge, my safe place, the easiest way for me to express myself. And music has given me ample opportunities. I met my first husband. I said first. I'm over here collecting them like my name is Elizabeth Taylor. Just stay with me. But met my first husband singing in a nightclub. And that led to being married and having a couple of kids. What came out of that was divorce because there was misalignment there. And we're gonna
mm,
get to that. There was misalignment there. I was moving in ways that I wanted to move in, and not in ways that were in divine alignment to my assignment. Another opportunity that presented itself was titles can be taken. You mentioned titles before. Titles mean absolutely nothing because what I learned was in the process, I had to figure out who am I if I'm not a teacher. I was teaching in the local ISD, and an allegation was made, which was later proven unfounded. Everything happened just like I said it did, but the damage was done.
mm-hmm,
The damage was done. And so when I thought I would be in a place of service, music wise, to a district, that was removed. It was removed from me. The refuge that I thought I would always have was gone. And I had made music my God. I had made music my God. I forgot somebody.
mm,
And so it was made plain to me in that removal, in me being sat down, it was made plain to me that I needed to focus somewhere else. Focus somewhere else. And so I thought that this was the lowest pit of survival that I've ever had to manage in my adult life. How am I supposed to be somebody's mama? How am I supposed to generate income? How am I supposed to, at that point, I had two kids in college and one in grade school. How am I supposed to maintain, you know, if I'm not doing the title? I thought it was tied to a title. And so being stripped down to having nothing else to focus on but God, nothing
mm,
but God, that part took me out of survival mode and back into just reframing the vision, learning what that new vision was. And in that process, I learned that doing the right thing still comes with consequences. Doing the right thing doesn't always mean an immediate payoff. Doing the right thing, telling the truth, being honest about what happened still came with consequences. That was heavy.
mm. Wow. Let me first off start off by saying I appreciate your transparency in sharing, and you hit some powerful points. I love the fact that you spoke about how You reminded us about the titles not not mattering, not being your lead thing, because as you stated, and this could apply to any career path. We get our degrees, we get the big job that we hope to get. We start making the money, and the reality is, if we're not careful, we'll get to feeling ourselves. We'll get caught up in our titles, and how gifted and good we are in what we do. And as you stated, we'll forget about how we got there. Who was responsible for navigating that path? We'll forget the time when you almost didn't make it through school because you were pursuing a subject matter that wasn't where you were supposed to be in, and you lose a scholarship. You forgot about how who that was that stepped in and got you redirected and refocused. And then, you get into your adult life and you get this job and you forget who made that possible, because you got caught up in your titles and the limelight of it all, and I got it going on, and all of that. And so what God does, and it's not a punishment. It's a love thing. Because
It's
he loves us,
preparation.
and,
It's a
and it's a prep.
preparation.
Yes, it's a preparation as well. He understands. Okay, my son, my daughter, they're a little confused right now. So I need to insert a humbling moment. I need to do a sitting down, if you will, a separation, if you will, so that we can get locked in and focused on the assignment that's at hand. The real focus here, that it's not about you chasing titles, it's not about you chasing money. I have a distinct divine assignment for you. And because I love you, I don't want you to miss on this, not only for yourself, but miss on the work that you're going to be able to do to expand the kingdom, to make my presence known to other people who don't know me like you know me. So sometimes that comes with the price of having to lose some things, having to be stripped of some things. Again, not for punishment's sake, but for transformation's sake, for reset sake,
Mm.
for you to get reconnected, because you've clearly drifted and gotten disconnected. We got to get you plugged back in to the source that makes all of that happen. Not only what you see in the present, but what is to come. And so that's what I see happened in your situation. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because I want our listeners to understand that that's, when they find themselves in situations like that, or perhaps have gone through something like that, don't immediately take on the victim role, because see, that's what the enemy wants you to do. He wants you to blame everybody. He wants you to, feel sorry for yourself and go into this deep, dark place, feeling like there's no hope, there's no way out, there's just nothing else to look forward to. It's just all over. It's the end. When in fact, this has nothing to do with that. This is God preparing you, as you stated, and I think that's the appropriate word. He's preparing you for something bigger than this thing that you're crying about. I know it hurts right now, but wait till you see what I got for you if you just follow my lead. You'll think about this as a drop in the bucket in comparison to what I'm laying out for you. I also love the fact that you pointed out that sometimes doing the right thing still comes with consequences. And people don't always catch that. Sometimes people just think, if I always do the right things, then it should always result in a wonderful, positive outcome. But again, I still go back to what you said about preparation. I still go back to the fact that sometimes the consequences, or at least what we define as consequences, again, is really a setup for the come up. We can sometimes be guilty of just being in our comfort zone, staying stuck in a place that we were never intended to stay at. It was a part of the journey, but once we got out of that, what we were supposed to get out of it, we were supposed to step up to that next level, to that we were supposed to enter into that next room. But we done got so comfortable in this room that God said, no, 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 you're getting a little too complacent. You're getting a little too little relaxed. And that was not the intention. This was a stepping stone along the way. You've gotten out of what you were supposed to get out of it here. You've impacted the way I wanted you to impact it here. It's now time to move on. And sometimes that can be the most difficult step to make, is that move on, because it usually involves you having very little details about what's in that other room. It could be some great stuff over there, but the sacrifices that are going to be required, the trust that you're going to have to put into what you can't see to make it happen, that's sometimes easier said than done, because as you stated, I'm trying to figure out how can I be a mom along this pathway, and how can I provide income, because I got a family to feed, and a roof to keep over my head and all that. How am I supposed to do that, God? You say you love me, you say you got my back, you got all these plans for me, but I got a bill today. I got a meal to cook today. Where is that all coming? And it's not going to be always an instantaneous overnight type of experience, but that's where the faith comes in. That's where, going back to our title, when you're connected to presence, particularly when you're connected to his presence, and you understand who he is and what he's capable of doing, then you don't worry about how all that's going to work out. You just keep your eyes locked on and locked in on what's most important and who's most important. And I see that that was an experience that you had to go through, which again, as we fast forward to present day,
Mhm.
you are where you are. Not because you got it, that you're perfect and you got it all figured out. Not because you don't still have things to work on. We all do, but you, at least your mindset is different. How you see it, how you see those next steps are different than perhaps what it was, you know, years back, when you saw it a little bit different because you were seeing it through worldly lenses and not through godly lenses. So again, I appreciate you sharing that, because this is a very powerful story that you're sharing, and I think it's very relatable to what a lot of people are going through, but they don't always know how to make sense of it. Like, because again, you not in our human existence, we do feel some kind of way, like, I did what I was supposed to do. I'm pouring in my best, and then when people, either don't appreciate you, or they put out allegations and accusations against you and say stuff about you that it's not true. And even if it's proven later to be what you said it was not true, oftentimes the damage was already done. It's like I'll always forever wear that stain on me. It'll always be that dark cloud above me. So what am I supposed to do with that? Well, God knew that that's how that was going to work out, but he wasn't concerned because he still had something better. What was important was that you did the right thing, that you operated in obedience and was decent and in order as he would wanted you to be, even if it meant, even if that meant a price being paid, in this case, on your behalf. But you're not alone in that. And there's a lot of people, including myself, who've had similar, as you were telling your story, I'm thinking of experiences. Yeah, I done been down that path before and know what that feels like, and you feel some kind of way. You feel some kind of
Oh,
way, and you got some words for
punching
some
the
people
air.
that aren't quite, holy to say, but nevertheless, you are still standing. You are still, your head is still held high, and you're still making moves, not because of your strength, not because of your power, but because of his. And so again, I appreciate you sharing your story, because that's definitely something that we need to hear and take heed to. So, for not only for myself, but for our listeners. So appreciate that. So again, you obviously you shared some things that you've had challenges with, and
Mhm.
that, and they can be very, very devastating in some instances, very heartbreaking. But the reality is that with our storms, sometimes they're heavy, heavy burdened like that, and then sometimes it's just life and type stuff that we have happen, and it could be a host of things: car troubles, an
Mhm.
unexpected medical diagnosis. I mean, a random array of, somebody just got on your nerves today, whatever that
Ooh.
is. Um, but with that said, if you would tell us, when you do find yourself facing, a challenging moment in time, big, small, or otherwise, what is it that you personally like to do? Kind of what's your routine, your regiment that kind of works best for you as you process through dealing with that challenging moment and being able to deal with it in a healthy and in a productive way? What does that look like for you?
Let me tell you what not to do first, because I fought to be back in the place that I was removed from
Mm,
for a long time. And
mm,
then it finally clicked, like, why am I fighting to be in a place that never had the capacity? It could not hold my
mm,
capacity in the first place. It took me a while to figure that out. And what that looked like was I went for walks. I had to be still. I had to be still and listen and watch and wait. And when you're in that valley and when you're in that void of where everything is forcefully slowed down, You have to learn how to choose your words more carefully. You have to learn how to move forward without dragging those old stories of who you thought you were with you. So one of the things that kind of helped me reset, recenter as I was going on those walks, what came to me was my days are divinely designed and aligned to my assignment. So anytime I'm feeling stuck or like, what I'm supposed to do now, what is we gonna do now? You know, my days are divinely designed and aligned to my assignment. And as I was on those walks, I came up with a mantra that works for me that that gets me to do it every day. Like a little bit, I don't know, maybe a little bit ADD, whatever. One of those undiagnosed people who's just kind of raw dogging life with no medication at this moment. But for me, I have what I call daily magic, and that magic is an acronym for something. So this was something that helped me recenter, refocus. So the M stands for make it easy. I have a tendency to overcomplicate the easiest thing, like simple things.
Hmm.
You be making stuff hard. Why? So M, make it easy. A, ask for help. Closed mouths don't get fed. And I was one who would not ask for help in the past because I was used to being the one providing the help.
Hmm.
G, I had to grant myself grace. Like, you still here. All right, this is another day to make another decision. You're still here. Grant myself grace. I I had to invite calm over chaos.
Mm.
The C was to connect with source and self. So source might be different things for different people, but I know what it is for me. So that C was to connect with self and source. So make it easy, ask for help, grant yourself grace, invite calm, and connect with self and source. That's my daily magic. That's what helped me come out of that pit. And pit, when I say pit, the lowest point I've ever been in my adult life was when I didn't know how I was going to feed, clothe, shelter my family. And I want to say that in the midst of me worrying about it, it all worked out.
Hmm.
So I quit worrying about it because it all worked out. When I tell you rent still been paid, car note still been paid, kids got clothes, we got food, all because of that daily magic, all because of that. Um, my days are divinely designed and aligned to my assignment. I had to put God back in my day because I hadn't done it for so long, so long.
Mm.
So when my language became clear, my life began to follow that language.
Wow. Wow. Um, Again, thank you for your transparency in sharing. I love the magic mantra that you have. Not because it's and I'm a lover of acronyms as well, so that definitely flows down my lane. But not just because of the coolness of the acronym, but when in asking the question of you, how do you deal with challenging moments in time? I think it's always good that you, and this, this goes to all of our listeners. It's always good to have something that you're doing on a daily basis that prepares you for such moments. In other words, you don't. It's kind of like I'm on the offense here. I'm not waiting for the situation to happen before I prepare for it to happen. Because if you think about life storms, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So instead of you just waiting around, just taking life like that you're somehow immune from storms, and then you find yourself caught out in the rain without an umbrella. Don't do that. Have something in place that you're doing on a daily basis that keeps you centered, that keeps you grounded, that keeps you rooted, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And that spiritual part is very critical. As you stated, I had a season in life where God was on the outside looking in, and I had to bring him back. I had to reincorporate him back in everything that I did, even down to my daily walk and routine of life. And once you started doing that, the things that you were worried about, which were reasonable to be worried about. I mean, food, clothes, shelter. I mean, that's something, and I use that word worry lightly. It's more, I should say, concerned. You had reason to be concerned about that because you had other people depending upon you, But at the end of the day, you had to identify, who am I dependent upon? Am I trying to carry all of this weight that's clearly too heavy for me alone to take on, or am I going to hand it over to someone whose arms are big enough to hold that, whose arms are strong enough to carry that weight way more than I am? Once you make those decisions to do such things when you're going through, as you stated, you realize that the thing that you thought was a big problem really wasn't a problem at all. Not because it wasn't a challenging moment, but the one who I gave it over to, he was a master at navigating that. He was a master at taking that little bit that you had, that little bit of money that you had in your purse, and making sure that everybody ate. He was able to take that little bit that you had and to make sure that you continued to have shelter, you continued to have clothes on your back, that the necessary payments were made so you would have transportation to get to and from, whether it was to school, to work, or otherwise. Unless you go through a moment like that where you literally have to sit back and you find yourself can't even do the math right, like, how, now that I think about that, like, I only had this much in my purse or in my wallet, or we only had a can of this and a half a box of that, but somehow it felt like Thanksgiving every night at the amount of food, and we still had stuff to put away in the refrigerator to perhaps heat up for lunch the next day, or reheat for dinner tomorrow. How did that happen?
Yeah.
That's a God move, and
That's
only
a
again
God
it's
move for sure. That's God and grit. Because when I tell you the
yeah,
math ain't mathing, the
the
math
math ain't
wasn't
mathing.
mathing. Um, there have been several people who have minded those gaps for me. I'm grateful for my journey.
And it's also important too, like you said, to again stay rooted in God, stay connected to His presence, because what you find out, especially when you're one of those individuals, and I am like that myself, when you're one of those individuals who's normally the one who's called upon or expected to be to be there for other people, whatever that
Mm,
looks like, emotional support, mental support. I got your back. I'm here to help. A lot of times, people like that, the encouragers, the ones who normally are pouring into others. One of the consequences, if you will, of operating in that space is that you oftentimes, when it's your turn, you oftentimes struggle to find, one, who to go to, and then secondly, you struggle, and this is something that you talked about earlier, you struggle with the asking for help, because if I'm the helper and now I'm out here asking for help, that might make me look like I'm, inadequate, or that somehow I'm
weak,
falling off. So I can't
incapable. What kind
I
of
can't
parent
I
are
can't
you?
ask for help.
Right.
Everybody counts on me to be the helper. How do I look asking for help? You look like a fool not asking for help, because you need help too. You need somebody to come alongside of you in certain situations and times. I mean, you're not Superman, you're not Superwoman. You can't do it all. You do what you do well, but you're not invincible. You can't carry all of that weight, because we tend to do that. Those of us who are in this mode, if we're not careful, we'll take your burden and put it on our shoulders. You'll be sleeping peacefully at night, and we walking around like it's our problem, like it happened to us, and and we, wait a minute, I got my own stuff, and I done took on yours, and yours too. You
Mhm.
resting peacefully, clear mind, stress free. Life is great, and I'm here stressing about. I'm worried more concerned about it than you are. So you got to be careful about that. And that's why God has to, again, sometimes He has to humble us. He has to sit us down. He has to, pump the brakes on us so that we can get reset, refocused, reconnected. And so I appreciate you sharing, your magic mantra. And for our listeners, um, if you don't have a mantra, this is an excellent one to embrace. But there are many routines. There are many regiments out there that can be aligned with God, that will work just as well. So take what Takenya is saying as a definitely as a starting point if you have nothing. And even if you have something, if she's got some nuggets in that you just heard that you need to tweak and fine tune with yours, guess what? Do that, because we all you have to have that. It's necessary for your peace.
Hmm.
It's necessary for your peace. There's power in peace. Not only just peace in the good times, but peace when the storms are hitting heavy. You just got to have that. It's okay, and I say this all the time. It's okay for you to have that moment of frustration, whatever that looks like. Tears, anger, a scream, punch something, whatever that is. But you just can't stay stuck there. You can't just wallow in that, because again, that's what the enemy wants from you. He would love nothing more for you to just sit in that. Have your moment, wipe your tears, take a deep breath, and say, "Okay, God, what we doing with this? I don't know what to do with this. This is too heavy for me, but I know it's not too heavy for you. Let me cast this burden upon to you, and then you tell me what I need to do." And in that moment, that's when you take that moment, and you talked about this. That's when you take that moment to be quiet, sit back, because you can talk to God all day long and tell him everything is going. He already knows, first of all, but at some point, you got to be quiet and open up your ears and listen to what he has to say, rather than asking him to move in your situation and then in the same breath trying to tell him how he's supposed to fix it for you.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be over here. What you doing?
Because now you out your lane, just like we talked about earlier.
Hmm.
You out your lane, or you ain't singing your note. That's
Hmm.
you a soprano, not an alto. You an alto, not a tenor. That's not your note. Same way with God. Quit quit trying to be God. That's not your lane. You are you. He is him. Let him do his thing. You follow. You listen. Don't question it, because it's not going to always sound, you know, in alignment the way what the world would say. It's not. God is notorious. It's almost humorous. It's some of the things that he'll tell you to do or not to do, and you'll be like, "Are you serious? I'm just I'm supposed to do that?" Or, "Are you serious? I'm just you mean just sit back and just wait?
That
Don't
part,
say
that was
nothing.
the hardest. That
Don't do
was the
nothing."
hardest. Yo, what you mean? Just be quiet and be still.
So just let everything that's going on around me, what people saying, what they doing, all the madness and the chaos, and I'm just supposed to just sit there and just ride it out,
And it all worked out.
and it's gonna work.
And again, and it all worked out again.
Exactly, exactly, and that's what you find out. When I think back, and I'm sure you've had the same experiences. Every time that I listened and I walked in obedience with what he told me to do, when I found myself in such moments, it all worked out. In fact, it worked out way better than I thought it would. But when I stepped out of my lane, when I decided to sing a note that was not my note to sing, that's when we were all off key. We were all off center. We was all off track. And now I done made a problem. We talked about that part of your magic. Instead of me making it easy, I made it hard. It didn't even have to be all that. Instead of making it easy and over in a short period of time, I just added some extra days or weeks to it. That
Hmm.
didn't even have to be there if I had just stuck to the plan and stayed on path instead of trying to freestyle and do my own thing. You know. So these are lessons that you have to learn. But
Definitely.
again, they are still valuable. They are still necessary, because God is very patient. He'll ride that thing out with you, and it's okay. You failed
I
out.
be
Let's get.
trying it though. I know.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I be
I
trying
know, right? Because you'd be like, God, I know you usually have it right, but I think this time we need to go with my plan. He just probably just sitting back, just smiling, like, that what you think, huh?
Yeah, you gotta
Oh,
let the conductor conduct.
got to let the conductor conduct. So again, appreciate you sharing that. So Kenya, as you think back over life, all the experiences that you've gone through, the good times, the bad times, the ups and downs, the challenges that came in between, as you reflect on all of that, if you had the chance to sit across the table from the younger Kenya, when you think about some of the things that she struggled with earlier on in life, feeling connected, finding her presence in those rooms, you know, wondering, did her voice matter, things of that nature, wondering how she was going to get through some of the challenging times in life. All of those things coming into play. If you could offer up some words of encouragement, some words of wisdom to her that you think that would have benefited her had she known some of this stuff that you know now, what would you say to her, as well as to any of our listeners that might be tuning in that are currently struggling with some of the things we've talked about tonight, and they're listening to this, and this might be, they might have considered this platform to be their last opportunity to hear something that gives them some sense of hope that they too can, be connected to their presence. What would you say to younger to Kenya? What would you say to those listeners?
To younger to Kenya, the first thing I would say is, girl, your daddy was right. Not him. Not him. Both times. Your daddy told you, girl. He told you. And you didn't listen. But real talk, I would say to Kenya, babe, you're gonna have to release in order to receive. You're gonna have to release in order to receive. You can't keep holding everybody's everything because now there's nothing left for you. You're going to have to release in order to receive. And that's going to look like different things, but release to receive would be the thing I would have told little baby to Kenya.
Love that. Release to receive. And even to our listeners, I think that message applies to you as well. It's, you're finding yourself stuck in whatever it is that you're dealing with right now, within the sound of our voices, release to receive. And that sometimes means releasing certain people in your life. Sometimes that means releasing certain um, responsibilities and obligations that were really never yours to begin with. You got to get that back. You got to let that go. Release the things that are holding you bound or holding you captive, if you will, to being able to experience the best version of who you are, to really shine in a way that God intended for you to do, rather than shrinking yourself in these spaces just to make other people comfortable. Because we can be guilty of that sometimes. We can be
I'm
guilty of that
so glad you
sometimes,
said that.
shrinking ourselves so other people feel okay about it. It's a reason, and I think you talked about this, if I remember correctly, on some of the things that I've seen that you've spoken on or posted about. Is like, it's a reason you're weird. It's a reason you're strange. It's a reason that you seem to be different than most people that are in your presence. And I don't say that to say that you're, some kind of oddball in a negative way. You're just you are just a uniquely, divinely designed individual that, and as part of your story you talked about earlier, your presence, your who you are and what you represent is just, sometimes that's just too big for some folks. It's not, there's rooms that you can't go into, not because you're not deserving or worthy to be in there. It's, the space ain't big enough. It's not big enough for your voice. It's not big enough for your presence. It can't handle what you bring. It's going to make those around you uncomfortable. Not because you're rude and disrespectful and out of pocket and nothing like that. But what you do and what you say and how you deliver it, it hits different. And those who don't understand that, they can't connect with that. That doesn't rest well with their with their inner selves. They can't handle that. Everybody can't handle God's favor on you. They ain't ready for that. Everybody's not ready for it. And you don't have to be apologetic about that. Some people, they need some work done before they can prepare themselves to handle you. But don't, again, in the process, it's not about you being cocky or arrogant or anything like that, but just understand that, you are God's creation. You are a princess, you are a prince, and one day are going to grow up to be kings and queens, and so you need to behave like royalty is. If you are royalty, act like royalty, and don't apologize for that, because you are a royalty that was not called royalty by worldly standards, but by godly standards, and that makes all the difference in the world. It's a whole different perspective that we're looking at in that scenario. So again, you got to release
To receive.
to receive. It don't get it's two simple words, but a powerful impact. So please do embrace that as you're working through your respective challenges and things of that nature, because you can't go wrong with that. So good stuff. Good stuff. Takenya, this has been a awesome time hanging out with you, learning more about your journey, hearing your story. You've shared so authentically, so genuinely, and we so appreciative of that. And as I said at the top of the show, I anticipated that you would be a blessing, and you have not disappointed in any way. You far exceeded those expectations, blessing me, blessing my listeners, and I'm so thankful that we had the chance to connect and for you to be present on the podcast. And know that you're welcome to come back as a guest at any time that you'd like to in the future, because I'm sure what we were able to accomplish in this short time together. There's so much more to unpack, and so much more that can be shared, that truly can be a blessing to people. So again, I appreciate you and all that you're doing. But with that said, Takenya, as is customary here on the Blessings in the Streets podcast, before I let you go, we do want to take an opportunity to celebrate you, to love on you, to lift you up, to acknowledge your queendom, if you will. So if you would, if you got anything that's going on now or coming up down the road, please tell us all about it, how people can connect, support, be a part of it. If nothing more, just keeping you lifted in prayer. So what does Takenya got going on or coming up that we all need to know about and get connected with in some fashion or form? What we got?
Great question. I accept that invitation for any further explorations and diving into the layers. Right before we came on, I just finished teaching the third day of my Say It Like You Mean It series. Um, the next one, it's happening all year long. You can find that information probably on my Facebook or my Instagram or in my stories, but there is a hub for that on my website forthcoming. So Say It Like You Mean It is my 2026 series. And the focus for the class that just wrapped up was how do you answer the question, what do you do? And so everybody walked away with their answer for that question. The other thing that's coming up in about, what's today? In 7 days. In 7 days, I'm releasing my third book. This one is an audio book. This is it's titled I Didn't Break, I Became. So if you want to get more into what had happened was and how I got here, it's happening on my Substack. So I'm sure those details will be in the show notes for people as they need them. But those are the things I'm working on. The other thing I'd like to get back to or have happen more often is back to singing and performing in a space where not necessarily the church. I ain't got nothing against the church, but there's a different kind of attention you have to pay when you're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great, great. That is awesome. That is awesome. So listeners, tap into her on social media. Um, purchase her books. Whatever it is that you see of value to not only to yourself, but if you know other people that may not have had opportunity to listen to the podcast, but you know that they need what she's offering, please do support. Please do tap in. Get all that you can, because again, she's walking in her purpose. She's doing godly work. Using her talents, her skill sets to be a blessing to the masses. And so you have an opportunity, a very unique opportunity to take advantage of that. And so do whatever you can to be a part of it, because, it's necessary stuff to help us navigate through our day-to-day life happenings. And again, to find our voice, to make our presence known. Again, not for likes and clicks, not for, fame and fortune, if you will. Nothing wrong with those things, but doing things in a way that aligns with who God is and how He wants you to walk in your purpose, and whatever He has for you is for you. So you don't even have to worry about it. We've been that's kind of been our theme throughout. We worry about how this is going to happen and how this is going to work out. If you just do what you're supposed to do, as God would have for you to do, He knows what you want. He's going to take care of all of those things for you. And again, and chances are He's going to do it at levels that far exceed what anything that you could ever imagine, and trust it. And if he's not giving it to you, a lot of times that can be a blessing too, because he knows we are prepared and ready to handle. So that's the beautiful thing about being connected to him. So
Yeah, it's either a
definitely,
blessing. I say it's either a blessing or a lesson. Like
that's right.
which one you gonna do with it?
Blessing or lesson. So again, release to receive, blessing or lesson. You take it, you take that, run with that, and again, get your magic going on. We talked about that magic. Don't forget about the magic. Make sure you
Yeah,
apply that magic day to day, whatever that magic looks like for you. Just make sure whatever your magic is. If you don't have, if there's one common ingredient that you want to make sure, no matter what your version of it is make sure God is in the magic. Because if he's not in the magic, then it's a different kind of magic that we're doing, and that may have some short term benefits, but that's not going to get you the long term that you need to ultimately thrive in again in the purpose that God intended for you to be in.
you have a
So
lot of lessons.
there we go. There we go. A lot of lessons. A lot of lessons. So to my audience, if you've enjoyed our broadcast this evening, if you've really, benefited from what we've discussed tonight, just being transparent, being vulnerable as we have been tonight, please subscribe, please share, please like, please comment, because this is what the Blessings in the Streets podcast is about. We come on here to share our journeys, to share our stories, pulling back the layers, letting you know that we all have our flaws, our imperfections, but at the end of the day, we are more than capable of being able to overcome even those most challenging and darkest of seasons. But it begins with who you are connected with. Where's your source come from? And this is why we don't make it a secret, why we are not apologetic about the fact of making sure that you have a relationship with God. If that's not something that you have, today would be a mighty fine day to make that decision. And I promise you, it'll be the best decision that you ever make. We're not telling you something that we heard. We're telling you something that we know from firsthand experience. He has so much love to offer. It's plenty to go around. Get you some of it. Get connected. Get locked in, and just watch him do miraculous and wonderful things. Not only for you personally and for your immediate loved ones, but also equipping you to be a blessing to so many others. Understanding, why am I here? Why do I get up every day? Why is he keeping me around? Because there's work to do, and he has something uniquely placed in you that only you can do in your own unique kind of way. Let experience that, enjoy that. It's a blessing, it's an opportunity, and I promise you, if you walk in that, the peace, the joy, the happiness that you're going to experience is going to be beyond words, that beyond any words that can fully express what that's like for you, and how your presence in a room will be so impactful on other people, whatever that room, whatever that space looks like. So again, remember, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and I thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, keep fighting that good fight, release to receive, attached to those blessings, and understand that there's some lessons that come along with it as well. Take it all in for what it's worth, because God has created a specific design for your life. Nothing happens by accident. The people you meet, the encounters you face, you just have to put on those godly lenses, replace those worldly lenses with the godly lenses, open up your ears and begin to take all in what he has for you, and just again watch him do just miraculous and wonderful things in your life, over your life, and through your life, so that you can be a blessing to other people. So until next time, you take care of yourselves and have a great rest of your evening.